Hi, I'm your friend Bruce Burke, and we're here today. We're back recording more interviews with people that are doing absolutely incredible things with AI. Today, I have with me AI Dennis Wilson from DBC Technologies. I got introduced to Dennis while I was working on the Fin Plus AI conference, and we've been talking back and forth. And I've started to help him kind of amplify his brand and tell people about what he's doing. He's got some really neat AI technology that he's been working with for a number of years now. And so, Dennis, please introduce yourself and then kind of tell us what DBC Technologies does.
Sure. So I'm Dennis Wilson. In some circles, I'm known as AI Dennis. And first of all, Bruce, thanks for having me. And I absolutely love your newsletter. I mean, every day it comes and I get updated on the stuff that I'm supposed to know that I'm too lazy to go figure out myself. I know I could build my own AI tool, but you've actually managed to suppress me from needing to do that because I can just read yours. So that's kind of cool. so, so DBC Technologies started 4 years ago. And in the beginning, we were doing before AI deliveries, online ordering, deliveries, and restaurant marketing. And we used to do one Facebook and Instagram post a week for our clients. I mean, it was incredible. And then AI came around and we're doing now one Facebook and Instagram post per day. The content is more varied. I mean, everything just went crazy. AI came in and everything about our business got amplified 10x. So $600,000 or $700,000 later, our platform morphed into being infected with AI everywhere. And now we put out some incredibly bespoke content for restaurants. From there, what happened was we built an AI voice agent, what we call for restaurants the nuisance bot. So when the phone rings and it's, hey, what time are you open till tonight? Not only did the bot say we're open till 9 tonight, but if they said, hey, what's the latest you're open this week? It would say, hey, on Thursdays we're open till 11. So it's amazing because that simple statement shows the difference between the old-fashioned answering machine, automated attendant technology, and AI. And the restaurants loved it. So from there, we went, okay, well, we got to figure out how to do online ordering. Telephone ordering. And we found a platform and we got all excited. And I actually got sold on spending $21,800 to be a part of this voice platform that was going to change my world. And I'm like, oh, I can replace my telemarketers. Oh my God, I was so excited. And then the guy who tried to sell it to me accidentally revealed the platform name. So I ran on and I took a look and I started a demo and I suddenly had restaurant ordering happening. And I'm like, wow, this is easy. That was in an hour. And then the phone rang. And I'm, yeah, who's this? I see you just downloaded our demo and you're using it. Holy cow, you're doing some cool stuff with that. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm doing this. Man, I got all cranked up. I'm so excited. I talked to this guy for 40 minutes and was ready to make a $21,800 decision at the end of it to become an agency license, which was what the person who originally found me on Facebook was. Now I started to understand why they didn't seem to know anything about it, but they were convinced that they could somehow build it for me because they had simply bought an agency license. They didn't have any AI expertise. They didn't know how to do prompt. They didn't know how to do anything. So thank goodness I didn't spend $7,000 with them. So at 30 minutes into that call, Bruce, I realized I was talking to AI the whole time. And that's when I went, all of those people saying that AI voice technology is not here yet. No, it's here if you learn how to use it correctly. Now, this was a 40-minute call. And then I eventually got pushed over to a live person. I didn't believe it. I was just pestering the crap out of him, believing he was just another AI, right? Like now I was so twisted. I didn't know which way was up. All I knew was, where do I send my money? I have to have this. So long story short, I got onto this platform. I started doing stuff to where the owners were calling me and saying, Dennis, how did you make it do that? I go, well, what do you mean? I just fixed your prompt. What do you mean you fixed our prompt? Well, you give me the whole prompt. Yeah, but you're not supposed to touch that. Well, why do you make it editable then? If I'm not supposed to touch it, show it to me and don't let me touch it. Better yet, just don't show it to me because then I'm going to be asking you every day, how do I edit it? Anyway, so I ended up getting this thing to where it was doing proper. So the problem was in the one that I did in an hour, I called up my business partner, Craig Peliquin, and he was like, Oh man, this is the coolest thing. I said, check this out, check this out. And I place an order with it, and it takes the order and it gives me the total and all this stuff. And he was all excited. And then like 20 minutes later, he calls me back. He's, Dennis, I was playing with it. And you did realize that all the stuff it was taking the order for wasn't actually on the menu, right? I'm like, what now? He says, yeah, it just made up shit. I mean, it was good stuff. It was plausible. And this became the number one mystery of AI. So it
The
turned
hallucination
out
of the LLM.
well, no, it was because that thing wasn't actually capable of doing it. So I gave it a menu and it just hallucinated and did it anyway. I eventually got it to follow the script and do the menu, but that was 200 hours later, right? And that was once I figured out how to edit their base prompt and make all of their badness go away. So this was sort of the trial by fire introduction almost a year and a half ago now with a platform that was faulty. In the end, they took the money and went broke. They screwed everyone. Then I find out at a conference that they were actually screwing people for 50 grand in the UK the year before. And they've been running this scam over and over and over. But I looked at it as $21,800. It was school because now I've already learned I already was an AI expert when I started playing with it. I already knew how to do proper prompts back when you had to do a proper prompt to get anything useful out of ChatGPT. You know, it's nice now. You don't even really have to try that hard with your prompts to get better stuff. I mean, a year and a half ago, people just don't realize you really had to be specific to get good stuff, right? So
absolutely.
This all came together. We ended up doing that. And then we had to go on a hunt for another platform. So then we found 3 or 4. And then we started and we got a couple of clients. And all of a sudden, the platform glitched. Well, when you're in the enterprise world, Bruce, you can't have a platform glitch that you can't control. I mean, with a restaurant, they might notice it. With 1,600 calls a day coming into your voice agent, they notice it in 4 seconds. Okay, so now we have to figure out how to build our own platform. And then I had the epiphany. The reason why these platforms glitch is their growth is so fast that scaling is a problem. So I'm like, well, wait a second. If I take all of the real important bits and build it myself and do it on my server for my bespoke enterprise clients, A, I can wake someone up to fix it if it breaks, but B, I don't fight the massive scalability, right? I mean, I may need to spend $5,000 a month on a server stack, but that means I'm in control because if I need to push the button to turn it into a 10 grand server stack to look after high demand, I can do that. I don't have to worry about the middleman. So
that's what they call the Jack Ma scaling, right? I just add another server. I want to add 10,000 more people, add another server, right?
Man, in the old days when we had our own server stacks and a client would pop bigger than they were expected and max out our server stack, and then we had to procure a server and get it put in. We were a week to 10 days before we could solve their real pain. Now with Amazon or Azure, you go in and you go, book. You solve it
right.
with
so you're using elastic cloud computing now.
Absolutely.
I'm imagining, right?
Okay. Yeah. So we use a combination of a whole bunch of things, and then the problem, of course, is all those bunch of things. So the problem with it mostly, Bruce, is that nothing in this AI world is old and battle tested.
And the second you think you got your hand on it, the second you think you got a grip on it, it's like, here comes a new tool. And it's like whatever you had that you thought was so great is now nothing in comparison to what came out just today, right? I mean, it's every day.
And that's only because we can't consume it every minute that it's actually coming out. So
it's so you know, I've been doing a newsletter. I'm at like 300 issues now, right? Somewhere right around 300 issues. And it used to be a lot easier to choose. So I do 4 stories every day and 4 videos every day. It used to be a lot easier to choose the 8. It's getting to be a really big column in the section of Apple News that I use to procure my stories. It's crazy.
I'll help you make an AI automation that'll do that for you. How's that?
I'm working on that. I'm like I said, I'm working more to automate it so I have more time to do work with the tools like what you're working with, because I feel like it's great that I'm reporting on it and talking about the advancements and, you know, I'm learning all along the way. Believe me, this was a great educational tool, but now I want to implement, right? Yeah. I want to start doing some stuff. So, you know, just like you, right? You know, you see it and you're like, you know, I was a little scared of it at first, but now they're showing in YouTube episodes how to put together, things that like 30 minutes, just got to have the right equipment. Let's go. Right. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. Click here, click here. Okay. Click there.
It's funny you said that, because there's a million YouTube videos out there to teach people how to make an inbound AI voice calling agent. They'll even give you the make routines. They'll give you all of the tricks. Okay. Here's the truth. Here's the ugly truth. You definitely should do that. But don't deploy that with an enterprise client. Don't do it. They are perfectly fun little toys. Yeah. But man, for scalability, turns out that's a whole nother animal. Even just using Make or Zapier for scalability, I mean, with all those cool things those guys build have 100 bubbles in them, and you pay per bubble. So it turns out when you just do what they're doing in low volume, you don't really notice it because you got 150,000 Make credits, right? You all of a sudden do 5,000 calls a day on it, and you see that you just used up $350 of Make credits, and you go, what the heck? These guys have no idea what they're doing from a scalability point of view. So then you start to realize, wait a second, you do need coding. And then you have to go and actually build those automations into code so you can avoid. At one point, the make cost was costing as much as the voice processing cost. And that makes no sense. So it's been a journey. It's been a journey. Even this morning, we had a glitch where one of the platforms that we use as one piece fell over. So my business partner, Craig's like, Dennis, why have we failed over to this? I said, I don't know, but we'll go figure it out. But did you notice what I just said? Why did we fail over to this? Yeah. Well, because the last time it happened, we didn't have redundancy on that component. Welcome to the enterprise. You need redundancy on everything. We have 3 layers deep usually, because that's how unstable all of the platform providers are. I mean, you read the news. Oh, this guy just got $25 million. This just got $110 million. Hey, what you got to remember is a lot of these guys that just got $110 million have zero experience with scaling software.
Yeah. I mean, OpenAI was down yesterday for a while. It was down for, I think, an hour yesterday. They say they're probably priming the pump for like GTP5. That's going to be coming out soon, right? So, every time Apple launches a new product, they shut down Apple.com for an hour, right? So, I totally agree. So, having control, and especially like you say, that failover, right? In the past, when I've worked with platforms, that was a big thing of, you can have providers and you can have people that help you do things, but you want to have a backup of that. And if you can, you want to have even your own version of that and fail over to them if you have to, right? Is the way I look at it.
Well, the cool part is with APIs these days, I mean, we have Twilio automatically fails over by API to Vonage, and Vonage automatically fails over to Twilio by API. So in the old days, you'd have to have somebody who got an alarm, woke up and quickly tried to fix 150 agents before anybody noticed. Well, now it fails. It sends the command. It triggers the switch everything to Vonage and forward Vonage to Twilio, or forward Twilio to Vonage. And all of a sudden you don't have a problem when the underlying partner screws up an integration with one or the other. So the beautiful thing about today's world, and with AI and all of this stuff making it easier and easier, is that redundancy is easier to build in if you think about it. But if we get back to the voice agents, the cool part is the technology is fairly irrelevant to the quality of the agent, right?
One more time with that?
I want to make sure. The technology behind your AI voice agent, meaning, in our case, it's Claire Fox is our voice agent that answers our phones and does everything. And she knows everything about our online ordering. She knows everything about our voice agent. She's everything about our chat bots, our RAG bots, all of our automations. So you can just call her and talk forever, right? And people are always like, wow, she's so natural. Well, guess what? She's not natural because of the platform we built her on. She's natural because of the way she was designed and created and thought of. So you, Bruce, and I work together on a bot, and I promise you that our voice agent is going to kick the crap out of anybody who tries to compete with us. And the reason why is we've got years of sales experience. We've got years of stuff going wrong. We've got the battle scars. We've got the stuff that we know that if the bot says it this way, people are going to respond better because they do to a humans when it's said that way. So by having that knowledge, and Craig, my business partner and I, Craig, we both come from heavy duty sales backgrounds, and we have a lot of multi-level marketing experience, which means a ton of training people. That falls over to when you're good at training people on how to sell that are bad at selling with what's called a 3-way call, where you get your upline to do all the talking and you shut up, and now you can sign people up before you know what you're doing. Well, guess what Claire does? Claire is the upline to all of our resellers or our sales partners. So we've taken and people are so, wow, how'd you ever think of that? Well, in the MLM world, that's just an absolute must. So it's our experience that allow our bots to be cool. They're more interactive, and we hear it all the time now. Oh, well, we've been playing with that. It really isn't ready for us. And we're, well, hang on, before you make that decision, let's just pop on with Claire, okay?
Yeah.
And 2 minutes in, they're like, holy crap.
Yep.
So much further ahead.
So let me ask you a question here. You have a lot of experience with MLMs, and you now have a lot of experience with AI and AI voice. Have you revisited the MLM world with AI and offered to provide it to MLMs?
Yeah. So the funny part is I was actually, my initial software company was an MLM software company. We were top 5 in the world for MLM software, building the platforms that they run on. And all of the stuff we've built has actually come out of the genesis of that. So MLM software does a lot of stuff. It's your e-commerce, it's your customer support, it's your recurring billing engine, which used to be called AutoShip, and the world was against it. Now everybody out there in AI is putting you on a subscription. So our whole world was just set to be this way. So the funny part is I have not. Well, I mean, we still have a few remaining clients that pay us, and they're interested, but I have not gone after the MLM industry, mainly because it really fell apart. So we pivoted out of it because it really, since Bitcoin hit, it became easy to scam people. And I just don't support that. I was there to clean the industry up, and it started to fall apart about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And we just started to pivot over into the DBC technology side and just said, no, we don't really want to keep doing that. And then the main reason is people come to you and they don't have any money, but they expect to get, $50,000 worth of enterprise level software. And then when you go and say, hey, I've got this great voice agent, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's great. We want it. What? It costs $10,000 to build it.
Yeah. Okay.
So we haven't gone back to that world. I don't want to support anything that isn't real. And quite frankly, the enterprise is a pain in the butt. I'll tell you straight up. I mean, it is fun and it's exciting, but the bureaucracy can kill every good idea that ever comes out. It's amazing. Every good thing that has worked for the smaller companies, the enterprise killed and turns it into generic vanilla. So it's quite amazing, but we're cool with that. Usually what happens is they kill it. And then because in a voice agent, you get instant feedback, right? I mean, as soon as you turn it on, the calls start coming in, the transcriptions start coming in. So you just put them on the transcription to watch how their vanilla ideas completely create disengagement. And then all of a sudden they come back around to your ideas that actually fix that problem. So it's just a 2-step process. But yeah, the bureaucracy is crazy.
So you aren't doing the MLM stuff, and you're started with the restaurants and the drive-thrus and the online ordering and the telephone ordering. Where are you at, like right now? What types of companies are picking up DBC's technologies?
Right now, because we're big in the RSPA, which is just an amazing organization, a lot of our
clients... Talk about that a little bit. Dig into that a little bit.
Yeah, so the RSPA is the Retail Solutions Providers Association. When Jim Roddy, the owner, approached me at the RC show in Canada, the Restaurant Canada show, apparently I completely flipped him off and said, no, go away. And then the next year, Ashley came and approached my business partner, Craig, and it was, hey, the event's at the Hockey Hall of Fame, and he's a big hockey guy. So we said, Dennis, we got to go to this thing. Oh man, these network and just to be clear, why I basically told Jim no in an almost rude way. I'm at a trade show where I'm supposed to be trying to do business, and someone selling me stuff can always frustrate me just a little bit. But B, we had given 500 to this guy and 1,000 to this guy. We were in 6 organizations that did absolutely nothing the second the check cleared. So I'm like, this is crap, man. I'm not doing this. Well, I got to tell you, the RSPA is a different animal. These people are incredible. When they say they're going to help you, I mean, within a year, I was on stage speaking about AI at their Inspire event, which is their premier event of the year. I'm known as AI Dennis in their circles because I go in and I help everybody all the time. I give back as much as we can. And they're constantly making introductions to people. Dennis, you need to talk to this person. This person wants to talk to you. So they are so active at setting up reseller partnerships. Sales, building your own reseller channel is sort of their motivation. And so when we got into that, at first we were just selling restaurant marketing, AI restaurant marketing, daily Facebook posting, 2,500 word blog post, 1 minute YouTube video, 2.5 minute YouTube video, backlink pages, all of this AI generated content that's extremely bespoke. You don't even recognize it as AI. It's powered by their menu, powered by their images. It's about a 6-step process. So it's not simple. It's a really cool engine. But what we were finding was the number of people within the RSPA that have restaurants in their channel were few. I mean, restaurants turn out to be a pretty hard sector to break into. So a lot of people just aren't interested in it. So then we're like, okay. So now we're working on alternate verticals with our marketing, including cannabis through LinkedIn, because it's actually cannabis friendly. And we have more POS companies that are coming to us and becoming our sales partner. And then we build a custom marketing vertical for them in whatever sector they're powerful in. So that's one core product. And then from there, we were using Claire to teach people about restaurant marketing. And all of a sudden they're like, well, how do I get Claire? Why didn't we think of that? And next thing you know it, I'm at the MJ BizCon show last year, because at this point, Claire is very advanced and helping us just immensely. And I'm sitting there in a booth out in the middle of nowhere with one of our sales partners. And he's like, Dennis, this is just crap sitting here. There's nothing. Let's go roam around. And all of a sudden, I started looking at all these 20 by 20 booths and 40 by 40 booths with big, shiny equipment that looked complicated. And my brain went ding, 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 ding. We should go talk to these people about inbound sales and technical support agents. So we did. We talked to 51 people. We had 4 people, if you can believe it, 4 people were outright dismissive and disinterested. The rest of them were all like, holy crap, that sounds interesting. 8 of them were like, we need to talk as soon as we get back. And I went, compared to restaurant marketing, which is small.
Yeah.
Enterprise bots. And then we started bringing some on board to realize enterprise bots aren't so simple. But now that
it's a much bigger scope, right? A much bigger scope.
Yeah.
So then you started focusing on scalability.
Well, scalability and just the myriad of ways to get data in, and, simple things like you think that, like, when a beginner starts with an AI voice agent, they're going to build their knowledge base in whatever platform they're working with, where it's almost for certain not a vector database. It's almost for certain not RAG generated. It's almost for certain the old fashioned way. It's probably not, the vector database makes things more efficient, but for whatever reason, they may use it, but they're not using it the right way. So when they do it, because this is how we started, so I know what they do because that's how we started. We just were super excited that we could just upload a bunch of the PDF owner's manuals for all the equipment the POS company sells. And it was pretty darn good at traversing it. So we were like, oh, yeah, we're good. I think we started to run into problems like ETX40. Now, your brain immediately hears ETX40, and it might even go ETX in your brain, ETX-40. It might. But in AI, sometimes it goes ETX-40. Sometimes it goes ETX-40 or 40, or it does weird things. So we realize that we have to actually run it through an AI tool that we've created that changes all of those to phonetics to be the way the company says it. Because guess what? There's the problem. I may always say ETX40. But if the company's vernacular is ETX40, we need to know that. And then we run it through a routine that basically scrubs all their PDFs one by one and replaces all of that with phonetics so the voice bot can't fail. But the RAG bot for the chat bot, because they usually come as a pair, you got the voice to handle inbound phone calls and even outbound phone calls. And then you have the RAG bot in the background. So customer support has the same instantaneous access to all the information that the inbound does. So your people benefit from the training. But to do that, now you have the voice friendly data and the chatbot friendly data running in parallel. And then it gets even more of a pain in the ass. The images in a PDF. How do you deal with that by voice?
Yeah.
Well,
captions on the images, figure 1, table 1, right?
No, it's actually even more creative than that. I woke up one day and I wonder if there's some way to programmatically take apart a PDF and
deconstruct it, you mean?
Well, yeah. So I deconstruct it. So we deconstruct the PDF and we give to ChatGPT Vision the last paragraph above the image and the first paragraph after the image and the image. And we say, describe this picture to maintain the context of that last paragraph and first paragraph. And it does. So if that has a big red button with a circle around it, it's going to say, okay, now do you see on your printer to the top left, there's a big red button? Push that button, please. So we actually have another AI automation. So our world has become AI automation after AI automation after AI automation to get things to be extremely reliable and good. And
is there any computer vision in that? Are you using computer vision to look at the images? And
no, it's
because I've got the Meta glasses and I'm using the computer vision on that, right? So.
No. All it is so ChatGPT has their vision model, and their vision model can dissect images. So it literally takes an image. So you can upload an image and say, what's this image? And it'll tell you. So we just have some really, really good prompts. And it's actually 3 stages because it screws up a lot. So you have to sort of do it, and then you have to get what it says, and then you have to ask it again and see if it matches, right? And we probably will eventually go redundant to also push off to some other image handler. But right now, Vision's just so superior to the others. So it probably will change. But again, that's that redundancy. As someone else can do it too, you throw it in, because a lot of times, like your voice agent, when you're doing a voice agent, it's not really an agent like this. It's this agent here. That's the traffic. And then it's this one. If it's mathematical, it goes to Grok. It's this one. If it's programming, like if you're having your bot take care of your SDK, so you're actually letting your resellers call in and get help with the SDK or API, well, then that goes to Perplexity, right? And then if it's just regular conversation, well, that could be Chat 3.5, which is almost free, so you save money. So it's a squad of bots.
Okay. So, right? So you're not just relying on one provider and one. No. You have a amalgam. So I've noticed that. So every day I'm doing that. I'm using the Substack platform, right? And I'm taking that lead story and taking the text of that and uploading it to their AI voiceover, which produces a 1 or 2 minute video for it, right? And it respells words so it can pronounce the words the way that it wants to pronounce, like a DeepSeek, which is very prevalent nowadays, right? It does it DEPSEQ, so it can pronounce it correctly, right? But it also hallucinates sometimes. In one of the more recent ones, it referred to the person 3 different times with 3 different last names, even though the name was spelled correctly in all 3 times, right? But it referred to it was 3 different names. I was like, some days it just loses its mind and I don't upload the video that day. It just doesn't work, right? It's like,
So welcome to the challenge of building an enterprise voice agent. Those things all exist too, but our agents are not built upon. So I'm trying to think, how do I say it without giving up all the secret sauce? But so we are basically a really complicated AI automation that happens to have speech to text input on this side and export text to speech on the other side. But all of the guts in here can be incredibly complicated automations, not built on make, not built on Zapier, because those would cost you a fortune, and then you'd be locked into their world. So we API out, and the tool we use that we've developed is we can add pieces to that flow by API. So a lot of it can be built on the fly. So it can actually go in and build that piece, and then when it's done, just explode it and make it disappear so that it's not sitting there in the way. So the back end's really fun. And every day that something changes, the cool part is you can just build another object that can now access that within the back end of our tool. So we're not so scared of new stuff because we can fairly quickly spin up an integration to it and have it able to be generated on the fly. So all of this stuff is what we've sort of had to do to get from doing a small guy who just, needs a very, very basic inbound bot to the enterprise, where it may be the phone call comes in and they want it to recognize the number. Based upon recognize the number, it looks them up in the CRM. Based upon what the CRM says, it says, hey, you got an invoice outstanding, or hey, I see that you had this problem. How was that going for you? Have you got a resolution to that? It can go into your ticket system. And so it can literally go crawl around to deal with problems this guy doesn't even know that you had, or didn't even know that you were remembering, and create that experience that's just out of this world, better than what's ever happened when they called the receptionist before.
So now you're not just doing a turnkey thing. You're doing AI consulting pretty much now, and building customized platforms based on their needs, requirements, specifications, even volume, right? I mean, all kinds of, so there's all kinds. So you say you're essentially building visually. I'm a visual person, right? So you're building a center hub that's got interconnections into all kinds of different solutions to that you can connect to each other to provide the ultimate tool for the enterprise.
So from our point of view, we don't have any kind of a shared platform that we put enterprise customers on, because that's too dangerous. But we do have, everything we build turns into sort of our base, let's call it our base agent. So our base agent has all of these things, but if you were to just try to run our base agent, it would break miserably, because everything that we have available in our bag of tricks is in the base agent. So we grab the base agent and we go plunk, and then we start taking away that and connecting this and connecting that, just so we don't have the actual, we're also visual. So to have an API call to build all of the bubbles is actually pretty hard to do. We might get there one day. But right now, we still start with everything we have and take away what we don't need and connect the pieces up, and then put in the credentials, build the missing parts, right? If they have we have a client right now that uses something that's homegrown of their own called Acorn. And that's what we have to integrate into. So we have to make a custom integration into their ERP system. And that's very common in the enterprise. They have legacy systems. They have, I mean, goodness gracious.
Let me ask you a question. I'm starting to read more and more about people essentially hosting on-prem, right? They're getting Olama or something like that, and they're building a server and they're hosting. How much of that are you running into? In addition to that, are you more focused on open source, or are you more focused on OpenAI?
No, So we learned really early on that there is no such thing as an LLM that's the right one. There's the right LLM for the right task at the right point in time. So we're constantly evolving. As chat caught up, all of a sudden Vision was the best out there for dissecting images for our PDF engine. But if that becomes not the case, we literally go to any other LLM that we're already connected to and change our drop down, and everything just changes to that other thing. So everything we do is about everything we have has the option to be powered by everything out there. And as soon as we find something else is better, and the funny part is we get massive pushback on DeepSeek. Massive pushback in the enterprise on DeepSeek.
So are they concerned about the security that is being sent to information's being sent to China? Is that
absolutely? And it doesn't matter if you tell them it's open source; they're just not interested.
So even if you tell them it's Perplexity is running it and their own version of it locally here in the USA, they still don't want it.
Well, the reason why they're not as concerned about that is now they have somebody to sue that can afford to give them money.
Man. Yeah. Okay.
When DeepSeek screws you, you ain't getting nothing.
You got nothing. You got no
You ain't
recourse
getting
whatsoever. There's no,
Exactly.
no.
So, and I think a lot of it's just perception, right? I mean, I was on with a really, really large company, $30 billion a year. And I had to literally say to their head developer, hey, dude, stop talking. Stop talking. This is a point in time where you're smarter to listen. And there's a little AI dentist telling this great big humongous company's head of IT that he needs to stop talking. And then I went further and I said, if any of my developers did what you just did, I said, I would fire them. And this guy's deer in the headlights, right? And what was his transgression? Well, I told him about an automated software tool called Bolt and how it could 100x their development team, and that it would be something that would be a good idea for him to consider. And he replied with, that's fantastic. How long has it been around? I said, 4 months. Well, you don't understand, we're the enterprise and, we'd have to know about the credibility of this thing and the stability of this thing and and I'm like, dude, stop talking.
Yeah.
I said, if you would have let me finish, I would have told you that your amazing dev team that you're telling me all about right now would be ecstatic because it's open source, which means they could go in and make sure all those concerns you just said existed didn't exist. And then anything that it didn't do specifically for what you needed to do, they could just make it do. I said, so like my company, if a dev is approached with a tool and he doesn't try it before he comments on it, I will fire them.
Yeah. That's condemnation prior to investigation. That's the number one. That's what killed BlackBerry, right? That's what kills every business anymore, right? I mean, businesses only last 10 years anymore, 15 years.
Because once they get big enough, they stop listening. They start believing that their opinions are the ones that are correct in the world. Meanwhile, that little guy that they never paid attention to sitting over here, he's only $1 billion a year. We're $30 billion a year. So we're better. He's using all the technology and he's now 10 times more efficient than you. So every project you quote on, you have to quote 10 times higher than him because you have 10 times higher costs. That only lasts so long before your big customers go, you know what? I can handle 20% more. I can't handle 10 times.
So they're talking about that. You have a lot of competition out there. You have Salesforce. You have Accenture now is selling Microsoft Copilot, agents, right? ServiceNow. You got some Oracle, right? Like every major company is pushing AI agents that deals with enterprise companies. So you're up against giants.
We're not, though. And here's why. As soon as someone says they're on Salesforce, I'm like right away, hey, have you tried their chatbot? Have you tried it? And I make it sound exciting. And most of the time we're like, well, apparently you haven't. I go, why? It's crap. Right?
Mark would be upset with you.
or if I get them to listen to ours or get them play with one of our chatbots first, they're instantly disappointed with it. And here's why. Oracle and all of those big guys have great big enterprise customers. They do. But they have hundreds of them, all in different verticals, all with different needs, all with different everything. And they're trying to work with the little guys for $1,000 a year as well. So whenever you have to be everything to everybody, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
So we're not finding it a problem. I mean, heck, Twilio has its own voice agent now. I mean, 11 Labs, you can put one together with relatively no code. Like you can go build your own. Folks, go build your own. And then come listen to mine.
Speaking of that, I don't know how well this would work on the podcast, but can you give like a quick demo of I don't know, can you dial up a number and put it on the speaker? Or
not on this platform.
Okay.
Normally we do that through Teams or Google Meets because what we do is we call in from a phone, and then we have that phone as the three-way in. But on a future podcast, we could probably arrange something, but it would take more time than we have to connect it all up. So we do that regularly when we're meeting with clients. So and then the funny part is when we do that, they become a little tinny and they become a little laggy Because what you forget about all these platforms is they're all crushing your data to keep it streaming. So they actually take our perfectly good bot that doesn't lag and make it sound laggy. So we have to tell people, now look, here's what's going to happen because we're doing it through this platform, but we're going to give you the number to call and do it live right after we're done. Because it literally gets just pregnant pauses enough where I'm uncomfortable listening to them. No, that's not. So there's limitations and challenges. So yes, it is doable, but you and I would have to play it a little bit. So maybe next time we'll do a full demo of the way these things work.
I find it really interesting. Like, I talk to a lot of companies, and a lot of companies won't talk about their failures or their things that go wrong, or, hey, there's problems and we got to have redundancy, and hey, things happen and all that. You're being very real about this, where a lot of people necessarily aren't so much, right? They try and be like, flawless, right? Seamless, right?
So let's give them all some help, Bruce. Let's give them all some help. We're talking to enterprises every day. And do you know what they love about us the most? The honesty. When they say, is it going to be 100% uptime? And my answer is, heck no. Right? Is it going to make no mistakes? Heck no. It probably won't make any worse mistakes than your current human teams do. So here's the biggest problem when you get into an AI voice agent. Everybody somehow expects it to be better than humans. Yet they tell you constantly that it'll never be as good as humans, but their expectation is actually magically set in the back of their head that it should never screw up. Man, I've had employees cost me $150,000 with screw up.
They talk to customers the wrong way. They say the wrong thing on the phone.
Yeah.
When I worked with other salespeople, I said, listen, if one of my guys calls in, you take a message and say, he's not here. Let me get your name. Let me get your number. That's it. You don't say another word to my customer, because I've got my customer where I want my customer. Right. And I don't want you saying to my customer the things that you're going to say. So don't do it.
So the things that really excite the enterprise is they all see tech support and customer support as a cost.
Yeah.
But with an AI voice agent, it's a profit center.
Because they can take that problem and turn it into a sale, or resolve it easily. Or
even if it's costing 50 or 60 or 70, or they're on the the $4 a minute voice model, whatever it is. The fact is, in the end, when it can go and look into the CRM, it look into the ERP, it can go take a look into the accounting system, know exactly what they've bought from you, and be able to say, whoa, we see that you have a this, and a this. Did you know if you added this, it would add 30% productivity to you? So a tech support call comes in, you fix his problem instantly, and now he's happy and excited because in front of his eyes it worked and he didn't get put on hold to go talk to somebody. And now you're suggesting there's another piece or a gizmo that can go into their stack and make it better.
Now, I was reading, I actually posted an article yesterday about American Express and their integration of AI into their IT stack. So when there's a problem, it doesn't just get, here's some links, that's the classic, right? Here's some links that you can go read and figure it out yourself, right? This thing walks them step by step through problem resolution, right? And the biggest takeaway from it was, one, you don't have to go have a live engineer crawl around underneath the desk or anything, right? And then two, you're getting them back to work more efficiently, right? They're going back to work. They're not, hanging around the desk for 4 hours while they're waiting for some guy to come crawl underneath the desk. They're fixing the problem and they're getting back to work. So those are two very powerful tools right there. I mean, and you're providing that in the same way that American Express is providing it to their people.
Stuff, yeah. So the funny part is the enterprise clients we deal with that really believe in the human touch, they go on and on and on about their but Dennis, you don't understand. We have white glove service for our best customers. I said, cool. So what does white glove service mean? Well, the customer calls in and they will be on the phone until we're able to figure out an answer, or we will get back to them within 6 hours. I'm like, okay, so when they call in and they ask a question, for sure they get an answer from the person. No, 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 no. White glove service means that we will source the person and we will get the person and it will be dealt with on that phone call whenever possible. Okay, so you're going to put them on hold. Yep. How long? Well, that depends on how long it takes for the person, if they're engaged, to come off a call. Okay. I said, so in your mind, that's white glove service because that's better than submit a ticket and we'll call you whenever. I said, but in your customer's mind, the minute they're put on hold, they're going, man, the pizza's burning, this is falling apart. The head waitress is ready to kill the chef, and you put me on hold, and I don't know if it's 1 minute, so I have time to go put out the fire, or it's 6 minutes, or 12 seconds, or 2 seconds. So you're
how long before I get to the senior advisor? How long before I get to the senior advisor?
Right. So then when we sort of say, so the problem is when you have a voice agent, it's just going to answer it and answer it and answer it and answer it until it can't answer it, and then it's going to put it through to a human. So 99% of your white glove service is taken care of without going to a human, and the 1% you can afford to have a guy who sits there and only takes 3 calls a day because it's white glove service. And they're like, oh.
Yeah, time is money. So describe, I've thought about this, and talking to you here now, I'm seeing there's a lot more use for it. And of course, I've been reading all these different use cases. How are you deploying? So you just mentioned, you're doing it inside of the IT stack. You're obviously doing it for sales. You're doing it for product information. What's some of the other stuff that your stuff does?
Yeah. So the thing that's big for enterprises, they do like the idea of having their own LLM running on the edge of a device, right? So with Hugging Face and some of these new tools that have just really upped their game in the last couple of months, that's actually getting easier and easier to do. However, we don't start there with them. We start with trying to get them to an inbound basic bot, whether that's for reseller channel only or whether that's for general public, whatever it is. We try to get them to start with something simple. We paint the whole project out for them. We'll price the whole $500,000 project out, with a time frame of 2 years to completion or 6 months to completion or whatever. But we always recommend that they start simple. And the reason why, that's for their staff's benefit, their customers' benefit, and their benefit. Start with the thing that works perfectly and does stuff simple. Because then when you add another layer and something does go wrong, everybody's already believing it can do it. If you try to start with the super complicated everything on day one, something goes wrong because it's so complicated. And of course, no matter how much you get a customer to test things, how much do they really test things? They don't. So then you have a problem. So we always start small and then we grow. But the kind of things that we're doing, we do a lot of outbound calls. And receivables are a big thing, having it automatically dial your receivables based upon the CRM or the accounting software saying it's due or it's overdue, and being able to go in to say, and then it turns out we found an interesting thing with the first client. They're like, Dennis, half the time it's not paid. It's because they didn't understand the invoice. Can you make it explain what's on the invoice and why? And I said, well, do you have a place that has the item number and what it is and how it works? Yep. Connected that all up, and of course it's AI, so it just crawls through that and formulates its answers based on
that. So it's miscommunication or lack of communication, really.
It deals with all those things right automatically. Boom. But the other thing we noticed.
So it's not you're not even really calling for money. You're calling for, hey, this is the reason why we think you haven't sent the money yet.
No, we don't do that. We do call saying, have a bill overdue? Is there anything that you need help with on that? Is there has something gone wrong? Or, do you just need our help in, arranging a little bit longer time to pay it? Or so we start gentle, right? And the coolest part is 90% of those calls, it's like, oh no, so sorry, I'll get it to you tomorrow. And it's just done, right? And that's because you called. Just the fact that you called makes them less comfortable with letting it wait. I mean, banks do this now. If you miss a payment on a credit card now, you get a call 3 times a day for 4 days until you answer it and tell them when you're going to give them their money, right? So we don't suggest you do that because it ticks people off, but banks don't.
No, you've got to approach it professionally.
Yeah. But so it's really cool. So that's one big use. Outbound calls. Now, outbound calls are technically illegal unless you have very specific opt-in to AI voice agent calling in your opt-in. So you can't just do regular opt-in to digital communications. There's a specific wording the FTC needs. But what our clients do, with enterprise clients, they're always, oh my God, it's going to be so hard to get everybody opted in. I said, well, don't. fix your legal paperwork, put it all in, and only roll it out to new customers. And then every interaction you have with an inbound call, we get the agent to ask if they are okay with them calling back with important information. And then you just slowly start working it back. So just segregate it off.
So you just ask for permission like Apple does. Ask for permission at every step.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Everywhere you can, you infect the process to ask for permission, which adds another person that can be called automatically. Right.
So if your robot is calling them, and let's say they have a bill due, they're past due, I don't know, 15 days, right? I'm thinking that it also probably looks at their payment history and kind of can look at their payment history and say, oh, well, this is the first time ever, right? Or, hey, this is getting kind of chronic for you, right? So, like, we don't really want to, you know.
So that's all up to the client, right? Because so we always recommend sort of AI plus human, AI plus human, AI plus human. We are not believers that you go, I mean, we're totally about AI, but we're not believers in going hardcore AI only, because then you do run into problems when people are stressed and they want to just have somebody, you know, to plead their case to that's a real human. So it's always AI.
I've had that recently with Amazon, and when I was finally able to get past Rufus or whatever they named their AI this week, right? Alexa, whatever. They got a different name for it, depending on where you're at with Amazon. But once they connected me with an actual human, and I was able to talk with the human and work through the issue with the human, I really thought to myself, you don't need AI all the time. It's not the answer to everything for your company, right?
It's the answer to the simple things, and it's the answer. It's the answer to the understandable things, right up to the point that feelings get involved. The minute feelings get involved, so we do sentiment analysis on the calls all the time, and if we start to sense frustration in the call, we actually, again, if the client wants it, and everybody does, we actually say, oh, I'm sorry, it seems like I'm, you know, not handling this well, and I'm upsetting you. Would you like me to put you through to a human right now? And then they make damn sure that phone gets answered.
I wish Amazon had that, because you got to fight with them to get past their AI.
Where did we learn from this? Well, we learned from this in Enterprise Gone Wrong. If you have a problem with Google, good luck. If you have a problem with Facebook, forget it. I had an account absconded with, and 5 years later, it's still absconded with. They can't get me to a human who can push the magic button to say, it's very obviously their account for 6 years, and now there's a picture of Chinese face care. And it's not in their control anymore. It's obvious that somebody hacked it and took it away, but they can't give it back to me, and I can't get to a human. So we know that kind of thing just puts people right over the edge. Trapping them in voicemail like banks do, you know, trapping them in stupidity like banks do. You know, it's real simple. If you want to do great in the enterprise, don't be a bank. You know what? If you want to do great in the enterprise and you're a really big enterprise, don't be an enterprise.
Break it down into smaller chunks.
And AI enables you to not be enterprise-like, because it's taking all that lowest end cost stuff off your plate. And the coolest part is it saves you a fortune in HR costs, because guess what the hardest position to staff for is? Tier 1 technical and sales support, where everybody's angry.
Yeah.
The
bots don't care if you scream at them and cuss at them. And
I understand how you're feeling, sir. Are you sure you don't want to buy a KDS today with that?
And the bots don't get emotionally responsive, right? They're not, because usually, like if the customer asks,
Up until 2 months ago, they weren't very good at emotion, but they're actually getting better and better at emotion. And you can actually make a mean bot now. I can actually make one that's mean and kind of rude and chippy, and so it's possible. That's up to clients, right? So there's no real no. So in the enterprise world, there's no such thing as no. There's what's your budget. So back to the building your own LLM, we always start simple, and we get them to use the regular LLMs without proprietary information. And that way they get comfortable with it. They see what's possible. And then, because burning an LLM and getting it into a server stack and all that could be $50,000 to $100,000. Like, that's not a simple thing, even though it's much simpler now. It's not a simple thing. And there's two ways to go. You grab something that's already mostly trained and you use it because it was already, Hugging Face has all kinds of things that are already trained for certain industries. And so it's getting easier and easier, but it still takes using that. And then what people forget is, and this is why we start with the big LLMs, they experience how smooth it is on the big LLM. And then they experience how much less smooth it is on the smaller models when it comes to voice. And that allows them to be more open to our suggestions on how the squad should operate, so that the actual time it touches the not so smooth part is only when it has to. So it becomes a combination, which saves you on API costs, because when it can use the internal, but it's about knowing the limitations of what your trained thing does. So in the POS space, we're working with clients that are burning on the edge to handle POS questions right inside the POS server. And that's
so that's something I have some experience in and something I have some knowledge about, because I've worked with POS platforms, and we delivered phone cards on a Zon Jr. back in the day, right? On a printed receipt with a serial printer. So you're dealing with some of the so when you're talking about enterprise companies, is it manufacturers? Is it distributors? Is it sales companies? What's the majority? What's the de facto standard that's coming to your company and asking for services?
Yes, yes, and yes.
Okay.
So the manufacturers, and then often what happens is we'll get a reseller who gets something from us, and then when they're talking to their sales rep of one of their products that they resell, hey, have you heard about this? You got to check this out, because they all get super proud of it, right? The minute they have it, they want to share it with everyone, and then all of a sudden that distributor is looking at it, or that manufacturer is looking at it, because they've heard about it from the bottom, the middle, because the bottom infects the middle gets one, and now the middle's talking to the top, and the next thing you know it,
So you're getting the foot in the door with the ISOs. That's usually how you're getting the foot.
Well,
is it you, or is it the outside agents?
Yeah, we're getting the foot in the door because specifically of my RSPA relationship and the relationships I've made there. I mean, when Blue Star's biggest people will get on stage on a panel and call you out and talk about you for 30 seconds while you're sitting in the audience, that moves the needle a lot with the enterprise. So there's some names I can't talk about until we're officially engaged, but we have some really, really big RSPA people that we're in deep talks with. And to be honest, when we first had the conversation, it happened because a guy just like you met me at the trade show, was working for an AI company right after the RSPA Retail Now. He got fired the day after he got back, and he came to me. He says, "Dennis, I love everything about what you guys are doing. Can I just hang around?" I'm like, "Okay." I said, "Can you sell?" "Yeah, that's what I do." I said, "Well, why don't you become a sales agent for us?" "Okay." I said, do you know? And he's been in the retail space and the RSPA space for years too. And I said, "You know anybody?" "Well, I know this guy at this company." I'm like, "How well do you know him?" "Oh, we went to high school together." Now, this is a $600 million a year company, private equity.
You're looking for those champions.
And that meeting was only done because of him. I don't know that I would have got there in the first phone call. I would have worked on these guys as typical in the enterprise for 6 or 8 or 10 months, even with my reputation at the RSPA. He gets the call. I'm in Curacao at a conference for that company when we're supposed to do the call. And it turns out Curacao doesn't have any really good communications network. So we couldn't do the call. So I'm like, "Oh my God, I just screwed up with this huge dude." No, because the friend aspect, we got another chance, pitched him. And he started by saying, "Well, Dennis, let me first tell you about us." And the pitch as to why it probably wouldn't be a good fit, but thank you for calling. And, I've now
dismissive
by listening to you. I won't go to dismissive. He was the kindest, nicest guy about how he handled it. And then somewhere around halfway through the conversation, I was starting, so what he didn't realize was everything he said that they didn't need and they had covered was perfect fits for automation. So I'm like, "Thank you so much for that rundown." So what we do is this that helps with that, and this that helps with that, and this that helps with that, and this that helps with that. And hey, and I got this idea. And next thing you know, it's like, we need to have another meeting with our key people. So then we had the other meeting with 8 of his key people. So nice. Little old AI Dennis meeting with 8 executives of a $600 million a year company going, is this going to be another one of those billion-dollar company conversations where everyone's idiots? No, all of them. They listened to our demo and they started interacting. They were fighting over who was getting to ask the next question of Claire.
That's good.
Literally fighting.
Those are good problems to have at a meeting. Those are good ones.
Yeah. So then he
Everybody wants to get in.
He's like, Dennis, he says, so here's what we're going to do. I'm not promising anything. I'm not promising anything. Meanwhile, I'm like, your guys are already promising it. Just in that they want it. They want it hard, man. So he's like, we're going to get together with them and we're going to find out sort of what things are and see if there's anything we can push the button on fairly quickly. But, we're not promising anything and blah, blah, blah. I said, well, tell you what, why don't you do this? Once you get the ideas from them, before you have your formal meeting with them, bring them to me and I can help you order them as far as cost, as well as effectiveness, as well as, an analysis from my side about how much. Well, that's a great idea. I thought so too. Right. So I guess what it is when you have something that people actually legit really need, it's just about being able to find the words to help them get out of their bias and start hearing what you're saying. And I can tell you every single time, it's what we talked about earlier. It's the honesty. It's the fact that I'm not trying to sell them something that's perfect. I'm not telling them that it's going to do everything. I'm telling them that eventually it'll do everything. Even the stuff it can't do today, in 6 months, it might be able to do it. The key is get started, get into it, be doing it now. Because if you're not, the company you currently think isn't much of a competitor has the ability to 10x or 100x their abilities and put you out of business in 5 years. And that resonated with him because he got it, right? I mean, if your developers are 100 times more effective than the other guys, that's massive, massive.
Yeah.
So yeah, being honest with him and forthright with him. And then when we did the demos, it all comes down to the demo. I wish we could do it, but we'll do it on the next one.
We'll do it on the next one.
Just absolutely blows people's mind. They didn't know that it's possible. Ours have personality. When we do an outbound call, the first thing we say is, hey, Bruce, it's AI agent Dennis calling from DBC Technologies. Hey, now, Bruce, if at any time you'd rather talk to a human, just let me know and I will put you right through to Craig. Okay, so then Bruce says, of course I want to talk to a human. No problem. Let me check. Oh, I'm sorry. It's going to be about a 3-minute hold for Craig. Would you like to talk to me in the meantime? Or would you like me to have Craig call you back? Faced with the 3-minute time penalty, statistics show that 99.3% of people will talk to the robot.
Wow. It's just going to be a short while. Okay. So
and then if they say, I'll hold, oh, look at that. You're lucky. I see. Craig's line just opened up. I'm putting you through now. So you don't hurt anything. But
it's just a try. Give it a try, right?
Do that because it's an AI bot. The bot did that because Dennis and Craig have a lot of years of experience dealing with people and knowing what frustrates them. Dennis and Bruce will have more experience. Dennis and whichever enterprise company can tell me their secrets, and we can make the voice agent follow their way and be creative and be not just out of the box, let it handle it and freewheel.
Yeah. I posted an article today in the newsletter, and I was thinking of you when I did it because you talk about AI for the enterprise. That's kind of your slogan of your company, right? They were saying like everybody's talking about AGI, artificial general intelligence, right? Yeah. The super intelligence or whatever you want to call it is coming, but they're saying it's anywhere from 2 to 10 years, right? Depending on who you talk to, right? Yeah. But what's coming sooner is EGI, enterprise general intelligence. And they're saying that that's about 6 months away, where it can handle like almost anything in an enterprise, right? Yeah. Almost anything.
Well, here's the neat part about that whole conversation. That's actually been around longer than the voice technology bit's been around, because that's actually just automations. Agentic, people talk about agentic, but when you notice, the ones talking about it are always professors and think tank people. Because at this point, I think the last stat I read is at best it's 18%. At best it's 18% correct. But what is correct is an automation like we do. Remember I told you about that squad of bots and that RAG bot? That's what it is. So as soon as that RAG bot takes an answer, figures out from everything else that is a legit answer and can be reused, and sticks it back, that mimics agentic. And that's what's going on with everything. And that's what we do. That's what anybody who's at the higher end is doing. And
reinforcement learning.
Power the world long before true agentic is. And that's already happened. It's getting better and better and better and better every single day, because the LLMs are starting to build more and more of those capabilities, connections to that ability. And so it's just coming across, it's coming down the road really, really fast, but it's technically 90% of it's an AI automation. Like we sell it, we don't tell it's agentic, but when we're talking about it, we say we're selling a voice agent, or we say we're selling AI. And then the people that we say it's an automation, or we just say this is we can say it's an agentic bot, and the LinkedIn will lose their mind over it. Well, it's not really agentic. I say, you know what? If my customer says that that's agentic, then I'm going to use the word that works for marketing.
Yeah.
Right. So being correct is a professor's thing. It's not a sales.
It all really depends on who you're talking to. I've heard different people use different terms simultaneously, right? Even to describe something, right? In my mind, it's really agentic AI when it's completely autonomous, and you don't. Correct. Once you've created it, it's just going to go, and you don't ever have to interact with it again.
And it goes its own direction, right? So it morphs. That's true agentic. And you can mimic it. And that's what a lot of effort's going into now, knowing that it being that way is an unknown question, but being able to mimic it and control it. Because the other problem about agentic is that's when it starts to become potentially dangerous, because it's going to morph on its own.
So let's kind of hone in on that, because I was kind of heading that way anyway. A lot of times, up until just recently, Anthropic said they're starting to get a handle on it, but AI was a black box. You could neither see in or out of this black box. Is it still a black box, or do you feel like you've got a little better handle on it and you have a little more control on it?
Oh, it's a total black box to me, and I don't care. So to me, what happens is, as soon as you have the enterprise talking theory, they're losing money. So we don't go there. We focus on what can we solve for you today, sir, with the tools that exist. So I don't really actually care about the agentic argument. I don't really care about black box or not black box. I care about what my customer needs. And I think the minute you started getting into all the philosophical stuff, you just burn up the time you have doing stuff that's useless to talk about. Right? Because even if it's not a black box, even if it's full open source, I can't put my developers onto full open source LLM and have them have any freaking idea what's going on inside it. So who cares?
Yeah.
Right? If you're a huge enterprise, and we're knocking now, if you're the $30 billion a year company that can go and put, $4 billion aside and decide you're going to hire all the experts to figure it out, go for it. But that's not our target. Our target is the people who really want to get some stuff in place that can really help them do stuff. And if it's a $30 billion a year company, guess what? After that call where I told the guy to stop talking, the person who organized the meeting called me right back then and said, I got four projects I need your help on. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen. He says, you weren't disrespectful, you were just truthful, and you were bang on correct. And you shook people up. He says, Dennis, they're talking about you in the hallways, and it's not negatively. They didn't like it.
It's good when they talk about you.
But it shook them up to be told truth. They never hear.
Listen, there's no bad talking about you. If they're talking about you, it's good, right? But so
we don't
think of a way that we can bring this all together. I'm trying to bring something to wrap it all up. So when you're talking to a customer, what are most people approaching you with to begin with? How do they approach you? What's the inception that they come to you with?
Well, they're never approaching us. So understand that when you're in a technology this new, your phone doesn't ring off the hook with people saying they want to buy it. We're out there. Basically, in a lot of cases, we're the first time they've actually touched it. So we're using our lead source of being at conferences and collecting business cards and shaking hands and getting to know people. And we're working our network to get introductions to places that could use it. And then we're actually going and pitching raw cold. And we have an 80% success rate in gaining attention. Now, it's the enterprise, so that doesn't mean they buy today. That's
No,
the nice thing about the
it's
enterprise.
yacht sales.
Once you get them,
I
it's huge.
understand.
But good gracious, it can take a long time to get to the finish line. So no, it's so new that people aren't legitimately reaching out and calling about it. Like even when we run ads, I mean, unless you get into the real cheesy ads looking for the little real estate agents and stuff that are trying to do stuff, if you're looking for the enterprise, they don't usually find you on Google. They usually find you on a referral. So a lot of our business is people being referred to us by what? People who have experienced Claire and decided their friend's company needs it. So that's usually the entry point for us, is either a direct or a referral from someone we've talked to who says, oh my God, my friend's company needs to have this. And then
so you've been doing this for what? You've been doing this for what? With in the mode you're in now, you've been doing this for a year and a half, 2 years?
Yeah, so the voice agents, we started on that platform I told you about, and we started learning about it, and we had our own up and running. I believe that was March of last year. So because the voice technologies only really existed since maybe 3 months before that, where it was actually a usable thing. So we got into it really quite early, and then of course saw the stumbling of all the platforms, and now there's platforms that are better and better. And then figuring out how to build our own is really the secret sauce.
So that was the question I was getting to. Have you now run into the situation where maybe you pitched somebody when you first started with your voice stuff like a year ago, right? And now they've come back to you and they're like, okay, I'm ready to do that. And you're like, wow, dude, like what I even told you about back then is like, that's a moot point anymore even, right?
I'm telling all my enterprise clients, I said, now look, everything we talked about today, just understand. I said, I woke up yesterday and everything changed. And I'm going to wake up again in 2 months and everything's going to have changed again. So anything that you don't like today, I said, give it 2 months and we'll have another talk. And, because that is exactly what has happened. Like Ragbots absolutely changed the game. The minute Ragbot technology became noticed enough and refined enough, and we switched everything over to Ragbot for knowledge bases, and not always Ragbot because it's not always the best choice. But when we switched over to that, everything changed. Hallucinations, jumping guardrails, all of these problems that used to exist just went 85% silent. And then when we learned how to manipulate data, because it turns out there's the right way to structure data for AI to traverse it easily, and there's the wrong way, which is uploading the stuff that your customer gave you. So when we go sell a bot, we're like, okay, so we can start with this, and we can go to this. Oh, a fire alarm. Excellent.
Do you need to leave, Dennis?
And we can make it more complex and better and better and better. So that way we've prepared the customer for the fact that if it doesn't operate the way they like, we have the ability to say, but remember when we talked about we should dissect the PDFs and change them, and you said we'd go with the budget version first? This is what the budget version can do. And then we'll do a sampling of 2 of their documents the right way. And then they'll go, yep, it's worth the extra 20 grand. Right?
So what is that?
Fire alarm. Happens a lot.
Do you need to go somewhere? Do you need to leave?
Not yet. I wait until I smell smoke. I'm only on the 6th floor. I can climb down out my window.
Oh, I see. Okay. So I was going to ask you about that. The term of the week that I see this week, model context protocol.
Yeah. So it's going to be the best thing ever because it's going to be fantastic. But right now, it's still sort of locally bound to your local computer. So it's fairly useless. From the enterprise point of view, it's fairly useless. From the hobbyist, it's really cool. But the minute it jumps, and I expect it'll be any day now, someone will come out and say, this is now usable. It will revolutionize everything because it'll make integrations. So integrations already using AI tools can be very, very fast compared to the old way. Like we do integrations to things that take an hour by AI that used to take 30 to 40 hours with traditional programming. That MCP is going to make that be 2 minutes and perfect. But it's still all tied up in knots in your local environment. And, you literally have to leave your computer running in order to keep it working and blah, 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 web container. So it's still so new that it's, and maybe that's changed. But the last time I looked at a deep analysis of it, the people that are sort of really, really big in explaining these things were all like, it's just not ready.
Yeah.
It's too tied to tininess. But once it hits mainstream, oh, man.
Yeah.
That's going to be the new race. That's going to be the new race because you want every AI tool.
They're
to be able
saying
to hook up to
that Google DeepMind has now adopted it. OpenAI has now adopted it.
Lots of them have.
There was one other one. It wasn't Amazon. It was one of the other big guys.
The problem isn't the enterprise side of it. The problem is the actual other side where I need to connect to it. So those guys making it available, they're super smart. But for us to actually access it in a meaningful way is still not there.
Okay.
Like I say, any day now, or maybe even, it happened. It might have happened this morning, Bruce. I don't know. I haven't read your newsletter yet.
It hasn't happened yet, but there's a lot of noise about it this week, and I know these guys are throwing billions and billions and billions of dollars at these problems, so I know they can fix them. Seriously.
I was just on a call yesterday, and I won't say the name of the company, but I was on a call with a very large information provider. Let's put it that way. And they're expensive. Like, you can do your information. So you get the basic information, and then you can push your button in HubSpot and it'll run off to them, and it'll come back with full details about that customer or about that company with, presidents and vice presidents and staff. And, it's a great tool. But I mean, it's 19 grand a year to have 5 people on it with 5,000 lookups. So it's an expensive tool. And I'm talking to this guy, and man, it was like talking to a really well-dressed dinosaur. I mean, it was super nice guy. And I'm like, dude, your pricing model's out of touch. Like, if you want the AI world to come to your door, this isn't going to work. He says, oh, no, you don't understand. No, I actually do. But anyhow, and, hearing how ancient they were in their thinking and in their pricing structure, and the idea, like I said, I'm trying to do this for my client, and they already have the subscription, so it doesn't cost me. I said, but if I was to add this into this tool that I'm building for them and for everybody else, I said, I wouldn't pick you. I said, I would literally just keep building, because I'm able to scrape most of what you do myself through other sources that are way cheaper than you. The same sources you use. Oh, yeah, but you don't understand how long it takes to integrate into all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I understand your side because I'm old. And I understand my side to know that now an integration can be 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's nothing anymore.
It's not 40 or 50 hours like you guys have built. You've built the legacy system. I applaud that. I was stuck with the legacy system. We now build new add-ons that we decide not to build onto our legacy system, and we keep them as a standalone object because they're just more efficient. So it's a messed up world, Bruce.
Yeah, it is. It is. And but it's really interesting stuff. And I think that, you got into it very early when the voice was pretty raw, right? And you've seen it all and experienced the potholes and everything else. So, guys, if you're interested at all in what Dennis is talking about here, if you have an organization that you need, maybe the phone answered, maybe some appointment setting, I don't know, let's talk about it. So I'm essentially working with Dennis to help him to put the word out there. So if you want to connect with me, I'll connect you with Dennis, and we'll go right down the road, and we'll help you get there. Right? It's a simple process, and I think with the experience that Dennis has from like day one, that he can provide, and if he can't, he'll tell you. Or we'll figure it out, right? Exactly. So it's all new to everybody. Anybody who's an expert doesn't have time to talk to me. You know what I mean? Who's a PhD and beyond? They're not going to be here, right? And they're getting $1 billion a year from Microsoft and Google and that stuff. Like the guy with Character AI, they bought his company for what, $2.5 billion? He had 100 million ARR, and they bought his company for $2.5 billion so they could have him, right? I mean, that's not us, right? But listen, AI is new. Listen, I've been a technologist and worked with computers since 8088s and before, right? IBM 8088s with 5.25-inch floppy disks. So this is really something. AI is really something. The organization, if you're in the retail solution, if you're a retail solution provider, the organization, Jim Roddy and RSPA is a great organization. He helped me on my pay show all the way back in 2020, just before 2020, he was part of that, right? So Dennis is in with the good people, and Dennis is one of them, right? So if you need any of this stuff, Dennis, how can they find you?
You know what? The easiest way is text me on my personal mobile number. And I know everybody says that's crazy, but I give it out all the time. 604-351-3249. I'm happy to spend a half an hour with you, figure out what kind of problems you have, see if AI can solve them, give you a little boost for your development team. I'm very freewheeling with tips and tricks to help get AI adopted into the enterprise without charge. And then, of course, just imagine if I give that all away for free, what we can do if we get into business together. So happy to help, happy to have the conversation. If you're not doing it, you're behind the 8 ball. I mean, it used to be if you're not doing it, you should get started. Now, if you're not doing it, you're losing out to someone who is. If the train has left the station and you're not on it, you better start running to catch the train. AI automations are making people efficient. They're making quotation systems take 5 minutes instead of 2.5 hours. Everything that the medium-sized business can't afford to get built, you now can afford to get built. $5,000 today buys you what 50 grand bought you yesterday. So it's crazy fun. And again, with AI voice agents, inbound tech support, training. So it ends up training your staff. It handles tech support. It handles sales support. It can be trained all the way up to tier 3. With time, it's easy to train. You call the bot and you say, hey, I got this question and you didn't know the answer. So here's the answer. And then it'll actually take that, not agentic, but it'll take that and it'll stick it back in. That's the human touch. And now, Dick, the guy that sits in the very back corner cubicle, he's been there for 100 years. Some people think he's a statue, but he knows everything about everything. Well, most companies, when Dick passes on or leaves or retires, find out after the fact how much he knew and how important he was. With an AI voice agent and an AI chatbot combination, you're collecting all of that tribal knowledge and you're securing it so that it's all there. Whether you carry on with a voice agent or not, you're going to have databases full of everybody in your company who can answer those questions. At the MJ show, there's one of those big super duper marijuana distillery, could do whatever the heck it did. I mean, it was beautiful. I wanted my living room. It looked so good. And I said to the guy, how do you set this up? Well, we send in a guy and he goes in and he stands there and he coaches the people on how to use it. I said, so he literally tells them to do this stuff. Well, yeah, that way they're better at maintenance. I said, well, what if an AI agent could walk them through that exact same process over the phone? And he was just like, it could do that? Yeah, it would do that really, 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 really well. So receivables, outbound telemarketing. The list goes on and on, but yeah, it will never cost you more than it saves you or makes you. It's a way to monetize your tech support, monetize your sales support, reduce headcount if you need to, or more importantly, move them to places where their talents can be used better than tier 1 support being abused.
Okay. So there it is, folks. You got it straight from the horse's mouth. But don't text Dennis. Come right to me, and I'll be happy to help you, and we'll get it done for you. Listen, he's helped many, and the words he's saying about I'll take time to talk to you, all these things. This is not some podcast stuff, right? This is Dennis. Since I've met him, he's been very interactive with me, very interactive and very helpful, and always willing to talk if he's got the time. And he's happy to relay all his experience and not give you a bunch of guff to just sell you something, right? So look it up. It's real stuff. DBC Technologies, and give me a call. And thank you very much, Dennis, and look forward to actually running into you somewhere in public sometime, and we'll sit down,
That'll happen. We're both in the RSPA vortex, so.
Yeah. I'm going to try and get out to a few more shows. Are you going to the one? There's one. I need to send you the link to that, to John Werner's thing at MIT. It's 6 floors, all going at the same time. Everybody that's an AI, all these companies that you're using.
So the weirdest thing is we don't tend to do those because that's not, we go where our customers live. Learning this stuff, you really don't need to go to conferences and everything to learn this stuff. I mean, pay attention to your newsletter, keep your ears open, and a lot of the information comes to you. So it's great to go make friends. But right now, I mean, I'd prefer to be where our customers are. So we do more like Retail Now. I'm speaking again this year at Retail Now. So we do Retail Now. We'll do the NRA show. We do anywhere where there's big people with 20 by 20 booths who might need an inbound support agent.
Perfect timing. Thank you so much, Dennis.
All right, Bruce.
I know you're a busy guy and you've got to run, and hang around for 1 minute though, because I'm going to put the stop and we're going to let the Riverside do its thing.
All right.